Okay, so a little while ago, I was making some steamed fish. It's called tilapia fish, and it's really healthy. But if you steam fish, it kind of doesn't really have a very nice color. It's just white, right? And I don't like that. So I took a little bit of tiny bit of butter and I put it on the top of the fish, and I took a torch. I've got this cooking torch, and so I was taking the torch and I was like making the top of it a little bit brown, like it looks like it'd been cooked, just for appearances, you know. And I would touch it and it looked pretty good, and touch it and it looked a little better. Touch it was pretty good. Touch it, it looks a little better. But there comes a point when you should stop, right? And because it's going to possibly overcook the fish, right? Or it could go from having a nice brown color to something that's more black and it doesn't look good. So I was doing this and I was like, should I go more? And I was like, I better quit while I'm ahead. Quit while I'm ahead. Okay, so this is commonly said. Not, you don't have to be a genius to figure out what this means. But let me just show you some examples. Okay, it's just really commonly said. My dad would say that. My dad used to say that to me. Like, let's say if he allowed me to do something, but then I wanted to request to be allowed to do something more, maybe, or you know, but he was trying to be nice to me, and I would, so if I requested more, and he would say, okay, just quit while you're ahead. Quit while you're ahead. Okay, we've got an example here that I'm going to show you. Okay, so this is talking about gambling, and this is probably where this originally came from. Quit if you're gambling, you quit while you're ahead, right? So this is gambling crash course.
Be sure to quit while you're ahead, if you can.
Sometimes it's best to quit while you're ahead.
So most expensive mistakes in all history. Uh, so they're basically going to talk about people who didn't quit while they were ahead. So number 2, Ron Wayne's Apple shares. So there was Steve Jobs and Steve Wozniak, and there was another guy named Ron Wayne who had 10% of Apple, which cost him $800. But he sold the shares because he was trying to improve his situation by reducing his risk, and that was a huge mistake.
Quit while you're ahead.
Okay, quit while you're ahead. So what happened was those guys are in court, and they won. But she started talking more to the.
Yeah, that doesn't cross my mind.
Okay, so she started to argue. They already won, but she started to argue with the official, right? And basically, she should have just stayed quiet.
We have a rule here. You know what the rule is? Quit while you're ahead. Once you win your case, don't talk anymore.
Okay, so that's a good example of quit while you're ahead. Now, I think I might have showed you this before, and sorry, there's some Spanish down here. If you don't speak Spanish, I don't know why that's there, but anyway, so this character in this movie calls this girl that he's been interested in for a while. And she says yes. He basically wanted to talk to her and maybe ask her out or something, but she invited him to a party.
Would I like to come to a party? Well, sure. Okay, great. I'll be there, Chris. Friday night at the Danbury's. Oh, okay. Thank you. Thank you. I'll see you. Bye.
Okay, did you see how quickly he hung up the phone? Guys do this, right? If the girl accepts the date, in this case, he called to maybe ask her out or something, and she invited him to a party. And so he goes, okay, 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 Chris, I'll see you, bye. And he hangs up the phone very quickly because he didn't want to say something stupid and she changed her mind. So he got his big break, right? And she said, come to this party. So he's like, okay, okay, bye. And that sounds like a little bit rude, but he wanted to quit while he was ahead, right? And so here's another case. Let's imagine that a police officer pulls you over, and he says, listen, I noticed that you were driving fast, right? And then he says, can I see your driver's license? And you give him your driver's license. He goes, listen, I'm going to give you a warning. I'm going to give you a warning. And so today's your lucky day. Stop driving fast, right? And he says it, and then you start to defend yourself, right? And you're like, now, hey, just a minute. Don't you ever drive fast? I'm late for work. Okay, I'm sorry. You don't have to be so rude, right? And you start to speak to the police officer this way. And the police officer said, you know what, I changed my mind. I'm going to write you a ticket, right? He writes you a ticket, and now you got to pay $250. So your mouth caused you to get a $250 ticket. You should have quit while you're ahead. At the time when he said, I'm going to give you a warning means you don't have to pay, right? You should have quit while you're ahead. Okay, so very commonly said, not so hard to understand. It's no mystery, but it's kind of like in so many cases in a language, we have a certain way that we say things with a certain series of words. And that's why there's so many misunderstandings in language, because like if I'm learning a new language and I try to say something in that new language and what I say is the correct grammar, but that's not the way a native speaker would say it. You see what I mean? So that's why there's some kind of misunderstanding. So this expression is not so hard to understand, but you need to know that this is the way we would say it. And also, if somebody says it during a conversation, you're going to instantly get it. Oh, quit while you're ahead. Got it. And also, you can make yourself look kind of like you've got a good grasp of the language. Let's imagine that you go to a job interview, and you get the job, right? And he goes, okay, I'll start Monday, and you close the boss's door. And the secretary says, well, that's great, you got the job. Would you like to stay for tea? And you can say, well, yeah, I appreciate it, thank you so very much, but I think I better quit while I'm ahead. And they'll understand that's what you mean. You got the job, so you want to get out of there before you somehow make a bad impression on somebody. So anyway, quit while you're ahead. So I will talk to you on the next idiom.